Security expert Dr. Kabir Adamu joins us now to examine the government's claim against the backdrop of this prevalent security situation in the country. Good to have you with us, Dr. Adamu, again on Newsday. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Hawa. Good to be here.
Right. So we know that President Buhari has mandated the armed forces to quell the insecurity in the country. He's given a timeline of December. Now, this is off the back of the other riot act that he read to the security chiefs a few months back, also giving a timeline to flush out these forces within our country that are causing such damage and destruction all over the place. What do you make of the president's constant riot acts, or reading them to the security chiefs, and the amount of work that is done after the pronouncements are made?
Yeah, so let's not forget that the president's promise to Nigeria, the three-pronged promise to Nigeria, included security. In fact, most people would agree that the reason why APC was voted in was hinged on security. And so if we're assessing the performance of the All Progressive Congress, and in particular the President Buhari administration, perhaps security will be one of the platforms with which to assess the performance. And so to that extent, it's actually imperative ahead of the election for President Buhari to achieve significant success in the area of security. Now, as you're aware, the campaigns are about to start, and there would be, punches being thrown from both the opposition party and I think the media and even civil society organizations regarding how the administration has handled security. And I think one of the best things it can do for itself is to show that it has gained traction within the security space. So that's, I think, one of the most important ways of looking at this. The second one is also the move by the National Assembly to initiate, first off, they did give the president, as it were, their stand on his handling of the security, and the opposition parties within the National Assembly, at least within the Senate, also attempted to initiate an impeachment process against Mr. President. Now, coming in the pre-election year, that is not good for any presidency. And so it seems that was also a wake-up call. Now, the third point is the Kuje Custodial Center attack. It seemed to have been a wake-up call that reminded the administration that, look, the ball has been dropped. And so there's a need to revamp efforts. And in July, in that particular month, after the Kuje incident, we saw 3 National Security Council meetings being held. I can't remember in the recent past when in any month in Nigeria, 3 Security Council meetings were held. So all of that is coming, hopefully to get some traction ahead of the elections. Now, whether that traction will be sustainable, unfortunately, there are a lot of things that we need to see. First off, is the cooperation between the federal and state government. We're not seeing enough of that cooperation at the moment. The second point is also the need to block, especially these ungoverned spaces and the border, points where these bandits and other threat elements are able to come into the country with their weapons, with funding and other things to perpetrate their activities. Then the drivers of insecurity that we know, poverty, unemployment, the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, climate change, the weak judicial system that is failing to punish offenders. So all of this would need to be addressed if this promise of 4 months, or this marching order that the president has issued, would be achieved at the end of 4 months, that's by December.
Now, Dr. Adamu, in his statement, Minister Magashi said, and I quote, "Terrorism by itself has far less value than the publicity that it generates." Now, earlier you referred to a few incidents possibly being wake-up calls for the administration. Can we unpack the meaning behind the statement juxtaposed to us also reacting to wake-up calls, to call them that, from the government? What could the statement really mean?
So I think the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, was even clearer when he accused the media of assisting terrorist groups. I'm quoting him almost verbatim, when government successes are made, the media does not pronounce them. But when terrorists attack, the media is all over those incidents. So in other words, glorifying terrorist incidents. And I think this is what the Minister of Defense was trying to echo. Now, I would take us back to one of the objectives of our counter-terrorism strategy, which is actually ingrained in almost every counter-terrorism strategy, and that is strategic communication. Strategic communication that aims to win the hearts and minds of the population. Unfortunately, in the Nigerian context, we've not seen enough of that. The government handling of the communication component within the national counterterrorism strategy leaves a lot to be done. We know, as an example, that from July up through August, that there has been significant successes by the government. In fact, before then, this particular administration has done a lot in terms of improving the platforms for which most of the security organizations are operating from, whether in form of technical or with the welfare or even operational components. But that is not being communicated in a manner that the average Nigerian would understand. Policies are generated, they are passed, but the average Nigerian doesn't even know them. I have had reason in the past to mention that even our governors are not aware of some of the policies. And I'm very particular about this. With all sense of responsibility, I'll use the example of the revised national security strategy, as well as the countering violent extremism component of that. I've heard the governor of Borno State repeatedly talking about the components of that policy without necessarily referring to it, which tells me to a great extent that either he's not aware of it, or perhaps his role in the implementation of that has not been made very clear to him. So again, I think strategic communication, one that helps government to achieve its objective of ensuring security within the country, should be an imperative for all the arms of government, where our national powers, all of it, including communication, including the media, including civil society organizations, understand their role. In fact, I would want a situation where the kind of communication being strategy by government is the type that the market woman who is in, Garki market, as an example, if she sees something wrong, she knows what number to call. She knows who to go to mention that. Yeah.
Dr. Adamu, please allow me to briefly interrupt you. Just before we let you go, I'd like you to react to Lai Mohammed's comments that the worst of insecurity is over in Nigeria. Isn't this a bit too hasty? That's on one part. Then on the second hand, is it possible actually for the federal government to claim victory over this insecurity we are facing in Nigeria without actually revealing who the sponsors are?
So a lot has been done in that regard, but let me start with the statement by the Minister of Information. I would see that statement as a statement of hope, a statement of hope that is hinged upon certain successes that have been achieved in the last few months. So in particular, I know we've been able to make some significant successes in the month of July and month of August. And if those successes are maintained, then yes, that statement could be true. But the reality is that Nigerians are still being killed. If you go to a village area in almost all parts of the country, especially in the Northwest and North Central, and you make such a statement, you are likely to be pelted because of the anger that would follow their reaction. So a lot of work remains to be done, and unless and until we do that work, I do not think we can make such a bold statement. Now, with regards to the prosecution of some of the victims or the suspects of terrorism, a lot of work remains to be done. In fact, the Attorney General of the Federation recently stated that out of the plus 400 persons that have been arrested as suspects of the funding of terrorism, a significant number of them have been released, mainly because there was no evidence to prosecute them. If you also go back to the Gerber report, certain elements have been mentioned in that report that remains to be addressed by the Nigerian government. So a lot of work remains. And unless we do that, and I'm very happy that just yesterday, the SSS did convene a meeting of stakeholders to look squarely at the issue of the funding of terrorism. So I'm hoping that the outcome of that meeting will help the Nigerian government, including the CBN, in addressing some of the loopholes. Our banking sector, especially the financial sector, it has a lot of loopholes that need to be blocked if we're going to limit the use of the financial platforms for the funding of terrorism.
Certainly a lot of work to be done. Thank you so much for joining us, as always, Dr. Kabir Adamu.